Sideshow presents Get Super with Joshy G. Featuring today's special guest, Renee Paquette. It's time to get super.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Joshy G, and welcome to another episode of Get Super with Joshy G, where I have not just one amazing guest, and that is Miss Renee Paquette, but I have two. I have Blue in the house. I was so nervous to interview you, Blue. I did a lot of preparation, Blue. I hope you're excited because I got some hard-hitting questions for you, Blue. Who you dating? What's it like in the Hollywood spotlight? I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Hi, Renee. How are you?
I wish that we were making Blue more of the centerpiece, but he is a bit of a tough interview. He doesn't have much to say, unless he gets early. It's still early for him, so like we've got Blue in the morning, which is like prime Blue time, when he's just like sweet and tired, and hopefully he'll just behave himself. But I make no promises.
Now, when you walk Blue, is Blue a good walker? Because Matzo Ball, who is a staple of the show, hates to walk in the morning. In the afternoon, evening, she's basically running, but in the morning time, forget it.
So in the morning, there's no way. This is him. He'll be like this until honestly about 4 o'clock. He'll just be lazy. And then once 4 o'clock hits, it's like the witching hour. He just starts he's like growling at us because he knows that it's time, because we live on a golf course. So once the sun starts to go down, which is closer to like 6 now, 6:30, then we take the dogs out there and we just like throw a ball, and he like sprints and he jumps and he has like an abundance of energy. So he'll be lazy all day. But if we ever have guests over to the house, this stresses me out so badly. He won't leave guests alone. He shoves his toys at them. He leaves them on their feet. Like, he's relentless. So we have him at a good time right now.
I like to think that pound for pound, at least my bulldog, and it sounds like Blue as well, is a very athletic dog. People look at these dogs and they're like, they're not athletic at all. They're fat, they're lazy, they snore, they fart. But Matzo Ball can jump 28 inches onto a box. She can swim, she can sprint. Sounds like Blue can sprint. Blue looks like he's super strong.
You said you were going to help me out with the swimming at some point, and we will get that. He can swim a little bit. He swam before when we were in Birmingham, because there was a creek by this dog park that we would go to. So he got a little bit ambitious, and he went to go swimming one time, and I was like helicopter parenting him, because he went swimming out and he just like started to sink a few laps in. So he's got the will to do it, but that's about it. Yes, he is very athletic. If we take him to the dog park, people are like, what the hell? No one expects him to be as athletic as he is.
Yeah, they will work themselves until they're about to pass out. So,
yeah.
How are things with you been? Obviously, we're in a world where we are kind of stuck inside of our house. How has quarantine been for you? How has life changed for you in this kind of, landscape that is, being inside the house for the majority of the time?
It's crazy to think of, like, God, what it's been like almost 8 months of this happening, or like just over 8 months. So when it all first started happening, was like, oh my God. And I think anxiety has started to set in, not so much of just being at home, but just like, oh my God, what is happening with the state of the world? Are we ever going to figure out what's happening? And like, there's still that still exists. But I feel like now that I've kind of settled into it, and just trying to figure out day-to-day life. And, me not working at WWE and having that be an addition on top of quarantine and everything happening. I like that it almost seems like a clean slate of like, well, you have all this time and you have these resources, what are you going to do with it? So it's kind of cool to have that creative outlet that I can just be entirely in control of. It's also like crazy because it's so wide open, but it's an interesting time to try to like create and figure out this new version of life and how things are going to go from here moving forward. But there's something really exciting about that too.
You grew up in Canada and you had these, aspirations to be, whether it was a TV host or an actress. Does it feel like, oh my goodness, I've hit the reset button, how it was however so many years ago? Do you still have those same kind of fears? Or you're like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen, in the sense of like what my next job is going to be? Or does it motivate you more like, oh man, remember we were here before, how are we going to just do things a little bit differently?
Well, it's a little bit of both because yeah, there definitely is that weirdness of like, oh wow, like reset button, you are going back to the basics. But it's not just that because I have so much more experience under my belt. I have a great fan base under my belt. So that changes things. I have a lot more money in my bank account now than I did when I was trying to do this before. I mean, if I had to do this and then trying to imagine waitressing on top and auditioning on top and just the way that things were before, I at least don't really have to do that right now.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it does sort of feel like, man, you put in all this hard work and then to abandon that ship and be like, nope, let's go figure something else out again. I think that's just like basically who I am as a person too, where it's like I love working. I
Yeah.
love being in control of my own work. So to challenge myself and test myself in these situations, there's definitely like, yeah, some days I feel confident as hell about it. I'm like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna knock it out of the park. I've got all these lofty ideas. And then there's other days just being like, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I just think it's both. And I think a lot of people probably feel like that just in general right now, just with like the ups and the downs of the day to day. And then I add on top of that, just figuring out what I want to do now. So yeah, it's weird.
But I think that's what kind of makes you so relatable and why people love you so much is that, that's a human, your attribute that you have where you're like, oh man, here's someone that was all over TV and now she's kind of starting over for again. And she still has the same fears that a lot of people have that, let's say maybe they lost their job or maybe they're not as motivated to reach out for their dream job. So I think that that's what kind of sets you apart from other people. And that's why people like you so much is that,
Yeah, and I think that is sort of the interesting thing too, is like for so many people, it's like, God, the world is in shambles right now,
Mhm.
but we can make something from it.
Yeah.
And like because it's so wide open and everything's going to be different. Like I just don't imagine that everything's just going to ever go back to what normal used to be. Everything's going to be different. So I think now it's being like, okay, let's like rewire our brains and figure out how to make this work, how to like function in this life. I mean, even doing shows like this, the fact that like this is not a real set, there's nothing happening in this backdrop, but this is how people are consuming their television right now. Like this is how people are watching things. I mean, whether it's us doing a show like this or it's like Kelly Ripa and other guy Ryan Seacrest.
Seacrest.
Why could I not just think of his name? But all shows are working like that right now. So I think there's just like the bar has been lowered, and I think now it's just about the content, and that's what people want rather than just like a shiny floor and fancy sets. I think people are ready to move beyond that.
Yeah, but I also think too, like the bar, yes, has been lowered, but just like anything, it makes people, as the old saying goes, the cream rises to the top in the sense that like you got to get creative and you got to find ways to get people to watch your content.
Start turning that butter, baby.
Exactly. So when young Renee was growing up in Canada, Toronto, and you looked at your dream job, what was your dream job, and has that changed now that you have this clean slate? Was your dream job to host a TV show or be an award-winning actress? What exactly was the dream job then, and now what is the dream job now?
My dream job always was more on the acting side. When I ever wanted to step foot into the entertainment world, it was from an acting standpoint. I wanted to be an actor through and through. I wanted to be Rachel McAdams. I wanted to basically have her career. Like Ellen Page, I think is another one of these like Canadian actresses that I just love and adore. And
Yeah.
Her O is another one. Like there's so many women whose careers that I wish that I could emulate. But when I ended up kind of pivoting and getting more into hosting, that was more about, at least for me, the way the system works in Canada, where it's really difficult sometimes to book acting jobs. It's such a small little community, but it's dense. There's a lot of talent in Canada, as we've seen on all of our screens and on bands and whatever. Like there's a lot of great people there, but it's hard to kind of get your foot in that door. And I kept feeling like I was waiting for like audition to be booked as like girl number 3 in a bar in a US production. They film in Toronto and Vancouver and stuff all the time. So they have to hire a certain amount of Canadian actors, but it was like these bullshit dumb roles that are like, fine, it's great to get those credits and get on that set and figure that stuff out. But looking at where I'm at now, I don't like to sit around and wait. I felt like I was sitting around and waiting. I didn't feel like I was in control of anything. And that's when I So I heard Chelsea Handler for the first time doing Chelsea Lately. I was like having a nap on my couch and like had my back to the TV and I could just hear it. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to do what she's doing. I love that I just feel like Chelsea Handler laid such a path down for women to follow beyond her. Of it, like it wasn't a show that was just for women. It didn't feel like it was even targeted towards anyone in particular. She was just funny and sharp and interesting. And she made hosting seem fun to me. Like I wanted to be like a Jimmy Fallon or like a Chelsea Handler. So obviously that's where my career changed because again, I'm waiting for jobs to come up. And that's when I started getting into more hosting. And I found I would go on those like internet casting sites to just see what else is out there, whatever. And there was a little cable network in Toronto or just outside Toronto that was looking for like a VJ. And I was like, oh shit, I could do that, no problem. So I went in and did the audition and it was not what I thought that it was. It was like a bunch of girls in bikinis and go for it, girl, get after it. That just is like not my thing. So I was very uncomfortable. I made jokes about it and they ended up hiring me. And then that's how I got my first show and I was like writing, producing. I was doing everything with that show. And it was such a great way for me to cut my teeth, especially early on, because nobody ever really saw it. If that existed, like no one saw it. So I could figure my shit out and it wasn't under the scrutiny of millions of people and whatever. And then I kept going from there. Once I started hosting, I just kept working. It worked and jobs kept kind of rolling in. So I followed that, got the job with WWE and, for people that don't know how that went, it's like I was able to achieve a ton of stuff in WWE from doing backstage interviews, kickoff shows, doing stuff at WrestleMania, becoming the first female commentator on Monday Night Raw, all these things that have been awesome. But now that I've been able to achieve all of those things, now I want to go back to the hey, how do I get back into like more of that Chelsea Handler role? How do I get like that Kelly Ripa gig?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
So that is the dream job, is to have your own talk show, you would say.
Yeah, I guess so. I think now it's always been the have a talk show. Well, I always got a little bit hung up in like the hosting where people are like, oh, you're like a broadcaster. And the idea of somebody wanting to put me behind a desk and do like Sports Center, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Reading
off of a teleprompter, and there's been people that have been great at that and that have thrived in that role, especially making it their own and making it interesting and fun. Like Jay and Dan did on FS1 when they were down here before, but they're two guys from TSN in Canada. They're fantastic. But it just wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. So I always feel like I would get a little bit offended when people are like, you should just be behind a desk and you should just be like this like straight-laced person. I'm like, no, hell no. That's not what I want to do. It doesn't speak to me at all.
But I think too, like that is what sets you apart in WWE. I mean, there have people that have come and go and that are still there, and that's not a knock to them. That do that and fill that role very, very well, and that's what sets you apart. That's why you did become the first female commentator on Monday Night Raw. That's why you were, I wouldn't say awarded because that maybe is the wrong word, but you were a part
maybe
of.
Later. Hopefully later I can be awarded. Somebody give me an award. Right now it's a bounty. This isn't an award.
I wish that was an award, though, by the way, the Mountie. You gave them out every year. But no, you were able to achieve so many cool things in that platform to the point where you're like, yeah, I kind of did it all. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is only so much you can do in that world where I feel, and again, this is maybe just your bud talking. I feel like you could do so much more. And I think that that's why, again, going back to why people love you so much and why you have such a strong fan base is because you are very relatable.
And it's really cool to me, the encouragement that I get like that from friends, from peers, from other colleagues. Like, I feel like everyone also champions me to be like, girl, you can do more, go do more. So, and like you said, it's like I hit that ceiling. I accomplished everything in WWE I possibly could. And once I started to kind of reflect on that and be like, okay, well, what now? What else do you want to do? You've done it all. Now it's time to take all these experiences you've had, this fan base you've been able to accumulate, and now let's put it to work. Let's try to get it back to what you really wanted to do and try to make a success out of that. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. And I hope you look at something like this as well. You've probably inspired a whole group of young women who watched the show. That was like, look, maybe I don't want to be a wrestler. You know, maybe they're sitting there. There's a young Renee with their back to the TV, and they hear a Renee, you know, a Renee Young doing commentary or doing a backstage segment. And it's like, oh, that's what I want to do. You know, I think the world of professional wrestling has come so far in the sense that like women used to be just managers. You know, they used to be. I think they were at one time, maybe there was like a one ring announcer that was, you know, back in the 80s. That was
like McGurk.
Yeah, exactly. She had like a tuxedo jacket. And now look at it. You guys are headlining pay-per-views in Saudi, or not headlining, but you are a part of pay-per-views in Saudi Arabia. You are on the commentating team at WrestleMania. So it's just a lot of, you know, Becky being a part of the first main event at WrestleMania. There's so much that is going on there that I think the next evolutionary step is to take a step out of that world and maybe pursue the Renee and Blue talk show as Blue.
I mean, he did just bail on me. I think he's in his own commercial break, and that's I'm teaching him the ropes. He'll get there. I'm very excited about the whole thing. And, you know, also it's like I'm 35 now, and it's either kind of shit or get off the pot, because I've already done it, and I could have just stayed in WWE and been happy. You know, I would have always had a fairly prominent role on the shows and had consistent good money coming in and being visible on TV and whatnot. But once you hit a certain point, it's like, okay, now's your time. You can't wait much longer. Especially stuff takes a long time. I want the next thing that I do, I want to give it the time to breathe and to nurture whatever the show is going to be. And it's not going to be this like instant thing. I want to really just give stuff the time to breathe and figure itself out and adjust the show as I go, make changes, and just kind of figure it out. But I do feel like age was something that, at least in my mind, was talking to me, where it's like, you know, you look at we always talk about the shelf life of a woman on TV. And I know, again, we're talking about women making changes. That's one of them. I don't think it's as crazy as it used to be. But I'm still trying to create my own path. It's like 8 years went by in WWE so fast. To start there at 27, 28, and then leave at 35 is like, you're a different person at that point. Like, you're an adult ass woman. It's time to get the party rolling.
Now, what are some of the things that you, Renee, are a big fan of? Obviously, we know we talked about a little bit with your love of Chelsea Handler, maybe comedians, but are there things that you just absolutely love and nerd out about as far as pop culture wise goes?
Yes. Let me just like get my single shot set up here since Blue abandoned me.
How dare you?
I know, he's sleeping on the carpet now. It's fine. So things that I'm a fan of. So currently, as Eve's Hollow is approaching, I've been really leaning into, so I started doing this last year, where, you know, everyone wants to get into the scary movies, and it's once October 1st hits, it's game on. But I really like getting into scary books. Yeah, so I love to read anyways, and I've been trying to make a bigger point of taking time to read. We spend so much time on our phones and like rot our little brains that to spend some time reading about corpses rotting is maybe a better way to do it. So
I know I took your suggestion. I have it right here.
Okay, so have you started that yet?
Not yet. No, I'm a terrible, but I got it. So
okay, so you're gonna love it. I have maybe 2 chapters left. I'm gonna finish it today. I read 2 chapters this morning before I hopped on here. I'm gonna finish the rest later today. Fantastic book.
We're talking about, I guess I should show people what I'm talking about. My best friend's Exorcism. It was a book recommendation by Renee.
And it was recommended to me because I went on Twitter and asked people, I was like, what are some great books? I mean, I've got the basics, but I was like, what else is out there? And that one kept popping up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And it does not let you down. It's really
perfect. Good. I'm a huge fan of anything 80s pop culture.
Oh, you're going to love it.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's all 80s pop culture, but then like I was a little worried when I started that it was just going to be a little bit light and fun, but now on like the second half of it, I'm like, oh shit. So that part's really great. But up next, I have a book called Satan's Harvest that was actually Carmela's mom recommended it to me.
Oh, nice.
So I've got that book, and so I actually ordered 2 books by accident because Amazon does that to me sometimes. And so I gave one to a girlfriend of mine here. So we are starting a book club that I believe is going to be called the Annie Wilkes Book Club. which of course one of the main characters from Misery from
Yeah.
Stephen King. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at right now is getting scary books. I'm
Do you
obsessed.
like the horror genre as far as film goes? Is there like a horror movie that you love, maybe growing up or even now?
Yeah, so I mean, Poltergeist will always be one of my favorites. Of course, The Exorcist, Pet Cemetery. But some of the ones that I love an exorcism, hence why I love that book. Exorcism stuff just talks to me. I want demonic features. I want all that stuff. So House of the Devil is a very good one.
Uh-huh.
House of the Devil I really like because it has that 70s campy vibe to it. It feels like it's a 70s horror movie, but I think it was made in, I don't know, 2007, something like that. That's a total stab in the dark. What are some other like great exorcism ones? The Exorcism of Emily Rose, I think, was one that I really liked. Hereditary was a really great movie. Gosh, what are some other great ones I've seen lately?
It's funny because I love scary movies. I'm a huge horror buff, and I was like, oh, you know what? I was having a joke with a friend of mine. I was like, you know what? You don't see very many Jewish exorcisms, right? It's always the other way around. They're like, have you not seen the movie? I think it's called The Possession with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and I'm like, no. And so I watched the trailer.
I don't know. I've seen The Possession.
Yeah, I eventually watched the trailer and then I watched the movie, and there is it hits all religions, so just be careful out there. Yeah,
I put it on my list, but here's my struggle with horror movies: is that I love them, but I don't want to watch them by myself. If I watch them by myself, it needs to be like I gotta put it on at like 6 p.m. It cannot go on late in the evening when I have a glass of wine because I won't sleep. I'll have to watch The Simpsons for hours afterwards to like cleanse my palate. Husband does not like horror movies very much.
Oh no.
Not into it. So I always think that I think it freaks him out. But he says it's because so many horror movies are bad, which yes, there can be some terrible, campy horror movies, and some people love that genre of horror movies. So I'm trying to wear him down. We watched the movie The Perfect Host last night with Niles from Frasier. It was all right. I fell asleep through it, so I can't really talk. But it wasn't quite what I was looking for. God, have you seen Antebellum yet?
No, not yet.
That's the one that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, with Janelle.
Janelle Monáe.
Janelle Monáe, yeah.
Yeah. So that's on my list of movies to watch. I've been kind of going through the Shudder app to see what else is out there, but I'm ready to like start putting my list together, my wish list of movies to watch throughout.
I usually try to watch 31 days of horror movies, and not horror movies just in general. I mean, it could be like you could throw in a Hocus Pocus in there, or you can throw in a classic like a Psycho, or an old Universal monster movie, just so it's not all blood and guts and gore. But going back to your love of exorcism movies, I feel like exorcism movies or some sort of infestation are always the scariest for me. Like Michael Myers and Freddy and Jason, they never scared me because I'm like, they just seem so fake.
Well, it's so different where like it's not even just the fake side of it where I'm like, well, if there was a Michael Myers trying to kill me, I could at least try to put up a fight.
Yeah.
You're possessed. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you're done.
Somebody else can step in, and the power of Christ and whatever, like you need that help.
Well, same thing with a movie like Alien. It's the same kind of thing. It's it's an infestation, right? So you're like, oh man, if there's an alien inside you, you are done. It's over.
You're done for. Yeah. That's the stuff that I like. That's the stuff that I'll think about afterwards. Also, like any kind of haunting. So what is the new show coming out on Netflix that's coming after The Haunting of Hill House? Because The
Haunting of Blythe Manor, I believe.
Right. I hope that is as good as The Haunting of Hill House, because that was incredible.
Now, when you watched The Haunting of Hill House, did you see the hidden ghosts you have to go back and watch it. I remember watching it, and I remember looking at the TV, and I'm like, there's a face. There's a face in that doorway. And like pausing it and you seeing it. And it's, to me, that was eventually I was told that it was put there on purpose, but watching it for the first time, it horrified me. I thought for sure that the show was possessed. Cause you hear sometimes like Poltergeist, the set was possessed. Oh, the set was cursed. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is finally, no, they did it on purpose, but it's so masterfully done that if you don't know that it's there, you would never see it. But once you see it, it's very, very.
Maybe
very freaky.
I should maybe like watch. That was like 2 years ago or something that came
I
out.
think so, yeah.
I actually watched that whole series on the way to Saudi Arabia. So I watched it on my phone. So I might have had a different perspective if I was actually watching it on like full screen at home to see.
Yeah. Even if you don't want to watch it, just YouTube Hidden Ghost of Haunting of Hill House. You'll see it. It's very freaky. Is there anything else? Superhero movies, or is there anything that you used to love, like as a child? Cartoons? You mentioned The Simpsons. Big Simpsons fan, huh?
Oh my God, I love The Simpsons. Of course, who doesn't love The Simpsons? If you don't love The Simpsons, are you even like? What are you doing with yourself? Actually, The Simpsons horror, like their Halloween episodes, are some of my favorites too. I love
100%.
Yeah.
Treehouse.
Yeah, so good. There's a Simpsons Treehouse shirt at Target right now. I almost bought it.
Really? Well, oh yeah. You know what? I will say this. Going to the clothing at Target, the women's section has always the best.
It's good stuff.
Graphic tees than the guys. I always get upset. I'm like, how is the girls get the House of Horror Simpsons shirts and the guys have the same shirts that were there 2 years ago? But that's besides.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. John just left the house actually wearing a Cheetos shirt that I think is from Target.
Oh, there's no
Cheetos shirt. I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that. But I find myself quoting Simpsons, forgetting that they're Simpsons quotes, and then going back and watching Simpsons and going, oh, that's where I got that from.
Yeah, it's so ingrained in all of our brains. I mean, who doesn't just throw out like the stupid sexy Flanders? Like there's so many different things that just like rattle off from The Simpsons that are that's part of our childhoods. I really was as a kid, or like, yeah, I was young. The first time, so growing up in Canada, we didn't get MTV until much later. So we had Much Music, which was our version of MTV, but we never had Ren and Stimpy or Beavis and Butthead. So my mom drove us down to Florida one year. We were just like going for a vacation, me, her, and my brother. And that was the first time that I had ever seen Beavis and Butthead. And I was like, wow. I couldn't believe it. So I developed quite an affection for Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy. Just those like, and even like you watch Ren and Stimpy now, like I ended up buying like the set of it on iTunes. They got away with some shit, man.
Oh yeah.
They got away with so much.
Was it they had Powder Toast Man? I remember.
Powder Toast Man.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah. But it was great because that in that era of like 90s cartoons, it was almost too like The Simpsons. I remember at the time it was like, oh my God, you shouldn't let your kids watch The Simpsons.
My mom hated watching it.
Yeah, and then it was Ren and Stimpy, and they were like, "Oh, don't let your kids watch Ren and Stimpy." And then Beavis and Butthead came along. I was like, "Oh, don't let your." It was almost like you couldn't watch these cartoons, which made kids want to watch them.
Of course, yeah, of course. I got which I guess is another thing I'm a bit of an enthusiast of, is a good Doc Martin, and I have docs with Beavis and Butthead on them, and they're cool as all hell. They're the best.
Now, going back to The Simpsons real quick, because I forgot to ask you, do you have a favorite Simpsons character? Or how about this? What is your favorite Simpsons character outside of the family?
Okay, that's better. I don't want to give a willy-nilly answer here. Let me just like run through my head really quick. I mean, honestly, probably Mr. Burns.
Okay, that's a great answer.
I think probably Mr. Burns. I mean, Smithers has some great undertones too. He's such a tortured soul, poor Smithers.
I'm a huge fan, and I think this is also Becky Lynch's favorite, but I can't speak for her. But I know it's one of her favorite is Milhouse. Huge Milhouse fan. Milhouse does not get enough credit on how just hysterical he is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Milhouse does definitely deserve a bit more love. But I mean, there's so many, as we know. But yeah, I think I would go Mr. Burns, and then my sub answer to that would be Smithers, along with affections towards Mr. Burns.
So horror books, horror movies, even though it amplifies around October, we have The Simpsons and cartoons, and I know that you are a humongous fan of cooking.
I love to cook. I love to cook, and I love food. Sign me up. Yeah, I love cookbooks. That's another thing. Like, we have so many books downstairs, it's actually quite offensive. That's the one thing, anytime I've moved from like different apartments in Toronto to moving to New York to moving out here, I have always brought my books with me, which probably makes my movers insane because there's nothing worse than a box full of books. But I love a cookbook, which is essentially what led me to wanting to make a cookbook, because that's something that especially when I was on the road with WWE, it was very nice to come home and like just flip through a cookbook, whether you're reading it or not, but just like the aesthetic of a cookbook. There's just something so like warm and welcoming and inviting about cooking a great meal and putting some love and attention into something, cracking a bottle of wine and like slow braising something or whatever. It makes me very happy. It's a great way to unwind.
Do you have a certain style of cooking that you enjoy more than the other, or you're just like, look, just throw it at me. I don't care if it's
Um,
Mexican or Italian, or like, do you try it all, or is there one in particular? Like, I'm
I
just gonna.
definitely try it all. And I think that's a little bit of a testament to growing up in Toronto because it's so multicultural that we had everything all the time. I mean, from having like amazing Jamaican beef patties to going to Chinatown to going to Little India to all of these little pockets that are in Toronto that you get such like authentic cuisine there that it always made me want to go home to try to recreate it. And that's one of my favorite things is like finding something I love and being like, hey, how can I make this myself at home? Um, but on like a regular day, like I'm probably gonna I might like poach halibut in like a tomatoey broth kind of deal. I'm also on a diet that's like high protein, low carb. So I'm finding different ways to ingratiate that differently. But on a good day, if I'm like going for it and I had people over, I would love to do like a beautiful like seafood pasta, maybe like a great like beef tenderloin that's like
Wow.
up in a cast iron skillet, finish it in the oven. I don't love to grill. I like it, but it's probably my least favorite of the food of the preparations. Mostly because you're like standing over the barbecue and like I'm burning my hand and hard to figure it out. Like it always, but I got a smoker and I'm obsessed with my smoker.
Yeah, people love the smokers. Is it like the Traeger? Like the Traeger is. I hope I'm saying it right. Like Traeger grills or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what's really cool about that, so they have an app when you get it, and they call it whatever. I can't think of what they call it. They have like some like cute term of how they like pair your phone with the Traeger. And you can go through there and find all the recipes and go, that's what I want to make. Click it. It gives you all the instructions. It sets your Traeger to the perfect temperature. You put in the prong into the meat so that you're keeping that thermometer in there so you know when everything's done. You know when you have to rewrap it, put it in foil, maybe braise it, whatever. But yeah, the smoker rules my world. Very
Now, is that what, because you, like you said, you're on the road with WWE, crazy schedule, you come home and you cook something that, because I'm sure you can attest to being on the road, you don't have the ability to do all the cooking that you would like to do at home. Was that the motivation? Because, to start your own cookbook, you're like, I'm getting all of these ideas from all these different cookbooks, but I have my own recipes. Are these recipes that are in your cookbook your own that you created, or are these ones that are maybe passed down from generation to generation? Like,
So
what
some of
was?
them are, it's kind of all over the place that like I would just think of like, hey, what are the things that I love? How can I make that? How can I put a different spin on that? So I mean, even going back to like the Jamaican beef patties, I was like, man, I want a Jamaican beef patty so bad. There's not a ton of places in Vegas to get them from. So I was like, well, I'm gonna learn how to make my own. But there
Yeah.
is one place actually downtown called Jammyland. And the chef was nice enough to come out and talk to me about how they make their Jamaican beef patties. They're actually quite simple.
Yeah.
Um, but it seems like making a dumpling and making the dough and doing all that stuff seems like a pain in the ass, but it's really not. It's not hard at all. But yes, it's finding things that I love and trying to like recreate it at home. Like to have like the seafood pasta, like the crab Alfredo from Red Lobster. That's one of my favorite things of all time. I've not tried to recreate it at home only because I know it'll be like 4 million calories. So I've not quite dabbled in that. But as I started really putting together this cookbook, my mom found my nanny's recipes that she had stored away for forever. So my mom sent me those. I was like, wait, you've been hoarding all of these recipes for this
How
long?
dare you, Mom?
How dare you?
Yeah.
So I did take one of her recipes, which was no, it's just Hawaiian rice. It was Hawaiian rice, but I had to fix it because it was too mushy. So I ended up changing it into a Hawaiian fried rice.
Uh-huh.
Changed the game. It made it much, much better. But I made it with spam, which I know will freak people out. But I feel like if we're going Hawaii, give the people the spam. If you want to put in ham, It's fine.
Yeah, who is freaking out about putting Spam in anything Hawaiian? If you know anything about Hawaii, they have their Spam in their grocery stores on lockdown
Everywhere.
because, yeah, so
Yeah, get all that Spam. So yeah, I mean the recipes really are all over the place. There's breakfast ideas, there's appetizers and snacks, there's soup, salads, sandwiches. I did a Vietnamese. I tried to do like a Vietnamese spin of the banh mi sandwich,
mhm.
but I made it into a panini. I hope that the world doesn't freak out about that. I hope that people aren't like sensitive about the banh mi. I'm sure they might be. But hopefully I did justice to it and like
Do you,
squished it all down and made the pork, and it was really good.
do you think that the food fan base is going to be as passionate as the wrestling fan base when it comes to your recipes, or you think that they're just going to, take it with open arms, or you think
No,
there's going to be one
I
or
don't
two
think
jokes?
I'm a little nervous. I'm nervous about like I hope people aren't like nice recipe. What is this trash? Like I hope that people like the stuff that I put in there. Um, but like things like that, like making a banh mi panini. I hope that people aren't like, oh my God, you ruined the tradition of making this Vietnamese sandwich. That I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just was like trying to make it different. I don't know. So that's a bit of a reservation that I have with it. But I just I think of all the cookbooks that I have some that are very like kind of like highbrow people that are legit chefs, Michelin rated chefs, James Beard award winning chefs. But then I have ones that are just like fun and who cares. And that's sort of the spirit of my book is the like just get in the kitchen, try stuff out. It's not the science of baking. I mean, some of them there are some doughs in there which does require a bit more science, but just mess around. It's good. It's all going to taste good. Spend some time, feed your family, feed your
Yeah.
loved ones, have a drink together. Like that's kind of the
Uh,
spirit of that.
Especially now too, because we at the beginning of the whole lockdown and quarantine, Sideshow had a show where they were trying to just get people in the kitchen and to do stuff, and they took some recipes out of we actually have it on the site. It's called the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Cookbook, where people can,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, where you can take these recipes from the very Star Wars related, various food items that you can make. And so,
Yeah.
it's, again, I think that that's such a great way to put it, is like, look, you could be critical about a book, just like you could be critical about a movie or a wrestling match or whatever the case may be, comic book. Just open it up, have some fun with it, and
Yeah.
try not to think about it too much, because at the end of the day, you are creating an experience, whether it's you and a family member, and at the same time too, like, you're making some really, really great food. So if you're making, if you burn your lightsaber sandwich or your pressed, but banh mi panini, like, it's still going to be an amazing, amazing dish, and I
It's
think,
like an experience. And listen, worst case, just order a pizza. It'll be there in a minute. Just like
yeah,
try it. Get in there and try it. And I don't think any of my recipes, like there's nothing that's unapproachable or something that you can't pull off. But there's some things that might like challenge you to spend the more time. They're not 15-minute meals. Like some of them are like, you got to sit and let this like cook over the stove, or it's cooking in the oven for like 3-4 hours. So there are some things that are a little bit more tedious. Um, but yeah, there's nothing remotely snobby about what I was trying to do. And I throughout the book, even just in the text, I'm like constantly reminding people, I'm like, I'm not actually a chef, nor am I actually a writer. So let's just hope that this works out. Oh, and
yeah,
also another component to that book is because all of it has to do with kind of creating that environment and enjoying yourself at home, is that I've created playlists with it as well. So
oh, great.
yeah, so I'm hoping that at the very back of it, I'm still kind of figuring out the logistics for that. But I would like to just have like the QR codes in the back that you can scan. It'll send you to Spotify or Pandora or whatever, and get some music playing for people.
Look at you, all over the place. Music,
Oh,
food. What about fitness? Now, you keep saying that you're on a diet, that you clearly love
I
fitness, or
lost
maybe
3 pounds this week, Joshy. Come on, help a sister out.
you lost how many?
3 pounds.
That's awesome.
I
Now,
know.
you obviously have a trainer, you have a trainer. What type of workouts do you love, in the sense that they really challenge you, and what are the type of workouts that you hate, in the sense that, like, if your trainer writes them, you're just like, ugh, no, not
Yeah.
this again.
It's funny because okay, so especially when quarantine first started happening, not that my workouts are different now, I can just be more consistent because I can actually go in and work out with her. But when everything shut down and I was working out at home, she was doing videos twice a week of stuff that you could do at home. And even when I put myself through exercises, it's the ones when you check yourself and you're like, oh my God, I hate this. But I'm like, well, I hate it because it's hard. And because it's hard means that there should probably be some better results and you're doing it for a reason. Like if I never do a burpee for the rest of my life, I will be okay with that. I hate doing burpees.
Well, the good news is you won't be doing a burpee in our little warm up because I know we don't have very much time and I know you got to go see your trainer, but you will do what's called a no push-up burpee or an athletic burpee, which we've done before, but I want to at least introduce you to it because maybe you'll have some sort of love for the burpee. But did you find that the home workouts were helpful, especially in a time where you couldn't leave, or maybe even when you were on the road and stuff? When you were,
I found them very, very helpful because I, especially when I'm just like at home or in a hotel room, I always have my resistance bands with me so that I can at least do something a little bit more effective. I think prior to working out with my trainer, I've always been cardio heavy, just hit the treadmill and blah, blah, blah. And even now she's switched it up, which I've been like kind of posting on my Instagram a bit of like doing that like high-low cardio, just like hit your heart rate up as high as you can, then drop it all the way back down and keep going back and forth with that. And I'm just sort of feeling the effects from that. But I love having good cardio. I love keeping that together. But I also am like pretty strong. And I like that she challenges me with that of like, you can lift heavier than that. You can do more reps than that. I'm like, I know, but all right.
Did you have any reservations at first for any kind of weight training where you're like, oh, I don't want to pick up those weights because I don't want to get as what I usually get from female clients is like, I don't want to get too bulky.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all women feel that way. I will say working out with Teresa, and she's like this like tiny, tight, compact little thing. And she's got a rockin' bod. So if I'm like, well, girlfriend's doing it, I'll do it. And also realizing quickly how much it does change your body and the way calories are being burnt in a different way. She's very good too, especially like with the female body of, if I'm, lifting something up and I give it one of these, she's like, don't shrug your shoulders. You don't need to get into your traps or like loosen your grip because you don't need to get into your forearms. So she'll be mindful of stuff like that as I'm working out. But yeah, I just think being able to see the results of lifting weights and not being afraid of that. Also just leaning into my body type is like, I have a pretty athletic body type. So there's nothing I can do about that. I might as well lean into it and make the most of it, not be afraid of the fact that I can lift weights, I can jump, I can run, and not just like, I think for the longest time, I'm like, I just want to be like skinny and thin and I want all these skinny things. It's like, girl, that's just not really your body type. You have to starve yourself to do that, which I'm obviously not willing to do. So it's, finding that balance, but I like being able to use my body in the way that it's capable of being used.
Yeah. And I think too, like, as a trainer and as someone that, owns an athletic program like Dead Boys Fitness, that's the one thing that I know I encourage and Colby encourages as well, is that we just want people to be healthy. Obviously the aesthetic part of it, which is huge for females, and we totally understand that will come as a benefit of working out, but the goal is to make sure that you are stronger, faster, healthier. If you're a mom, that you can play with your kids and do all the mom things that you need to do throughout the day. If you're a dad and you're able to, have the energy to play with your kids and stuff like that. And I think that that's such a huge thing that people miss. It's like, yeah, sure, having great cardio is awesome and fantastic, but if you need to be in a situation where you need to pick something up super fast, we want you to be strong to be able to do that, and I think that that's such a huge thing in as far as training goes, is that people forget some of the time. It's like, hey, like lifting weights doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be bulky. You have to train and eat like a fiend before you even remotely get bulky. So don't be afraid to pick up the weights, I guess is what I'm trying.
Yeah, that's the other side of it too, is like, as I'm figuring out the better nutrition side of things too, I think that's something that starts to like nip me in the butt a bit, is like, and that's something of being on the road all the time too. You pick up these bad habits of eating late at night and eating from a gas station and ordering in room service and having glasses of wine when maybe you shouldn't be having that, or, even at the airport, whatever, you're bloated from coming off of a plane, all that stuff. But getting the nutrition back on track and figuring what works for my body and what doesn't. But even so, I've been like just over a week of no dairy. I've also not had any chips in my life, which is a massive deal. I am a sucker for chips, but I just feel lighter and like bouncier. There's nothing worse when I'm going to work out and I just feel sluggish and I'm tired and I feel heavy. And I feel like I've been able to kind of like get that sludge off and I feel better about it. And also I want to just add in like the mindfulness of just even taking an hour for yourself to not be on your phone, to just like clear your mind. It just makes me feel sharper and brighter in that aspect.
We'll see. Look at that, folks. Just put the phone down just for an hour.
Phones are so bad for you. We already know this, but we're all addicted and whatever.
All right. Well, before we get into our warm up, because I know I don't want to tire you completely out for your training session with your trainer, and I also don't want her coming after me because then I got heat with another trainer, and then there's the whole thing, and then she's gonna have her own. No, I'm just kidding. But there's one question that I ask everybody, and I want to ask you. Obviously, one being a pro wrestling fan and having my hands with a lot of wrestlers, I have a question for you. If you were, Renee, to book the main event of a pop culture WrestleMania, and it could be anything, literally anything that you want, what would your pop culture main event WrestleMania be and why?
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Okay.
I know I'm putting you on the spot. It could literally be as crazy.
I'm gonna go Regan from The Exorcist.
Okay.
Versus the mom from Hereditary.
Oh, great matchup already.
Lumberjack match with all of like the minion Satan worshippers from Rosemary's Baby and a casket match.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is a great match. First of all three of those movies are terrifying. All three of those movies are terrifying. But I think what's even more terrifying, at least for me, are the Lumberjacks, because those terrified me watching Rosemary's Baby way more so than Regan or the mom from Hereditary, who are both as equally as terrifying. But yes, that is a tremendous answer.
Nailed it. I feel very confident about that. I think that we would garner a lot of viewers. We would push the censorship. I think that I feel very confident.
But you didn't answer the most important question, I guess. And maybe I didn't ask it, but who's going over and why?
Oh gosh.
Who's winning?
I think that it's time for Regan to end up in that casket and get her out of there. I feel like you can't overcome we've got a possessed child versus a possessed adult. So I think the possessed adult is going to go over in this one. So the mom from Hereditary. And then I'm not really sure what happens to the Lumberjacks on the other side of that. Do they just vanish? Do they go back into the seedy side of New York in these fancy apartment buildings? I'm not sure.
I love the answer. It's great. Thank you so much for indulging me in such a terrific answer.
Hell yeah.
For those of you that might possibly be guests on the show in the future, take note. The bar has been set. All right. Well, we're going to take just a tiny quick break. We are going to come back with a fun warm up for you guys to do before any workout that you could do at home or with your trainer. And yeah, we'll be right back. All right, everybody. So Renee is going to be working some legs today with her trainer. And so we're just going to warm her up and warm you guys up with a very, very small leg warm up. We're going to be doing some jumping jacks to start, as well as some lunges and then a couple of stretches that you guys can do at home. Now, again, remember, this is prescribed for 3 rounds. We're only going to demonstrate 1. And yeah, who's ready? Renee, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm going to try to not knock this rhino head off the wall, but I make no promises.
Please do that just for so we can replay it over and over and over again. All right, so let's just start with 10 good old-fashioned jumping jacks. If you guys want to do all the way upwards to 30, you totally can. But just to warm up our core and get our heart rate going, let's just go for 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love that Matzo Ball is secretly judging me, by the way.
He's giving me a little side eye right now. He's like, oh God.
All right, so now we're going to do what's called a lunge squat complex, and it's just how it sounds. So what we're going to do first is we are going to lunge forward with our right leg. There you go. And then we're going to come right back up. We're going to lunge forward with our left leg. And now we're going to do a air squat, hopefully getting all the way down below parallel and standing all the way up. That's 1. Let's do that 5 more times. So lunge with our right. Lunge with our
Oh
left.
my, it's already getting up. Look at what you're doing to me.
And squat. That's 2. Lunge with the right. Lunge with the left. Squat. That's 3. Lunge with the right. Oh, look at you trying to go faster.
Sorry.
Lunge with the left. And squat. I think that's 4.
That was 4.
And lunge with the right. Lunge with the left. And squat for 5. All right, you can grab a chair if you'd like for some balance, but we're gonna do a little quad stretch. You're gonna take your right leg, try to drive your right heel into your butt.
Oh yes, I need to stretch so much more.
You and me both, and the rest of the Dead Boys and Girls Fitness community. We have a fun stretching class every Thursday, Renee. You're more than welcome to join anytime you'd like.
Wait, do you just like do it like this?
I don't do it. No, we have a lovely lady by the name of Jackie, but yes, it's just like this, except a little bit more yoga inspired.
I need more of that. So I used to do yoga all the time, and then the place that I loved here closed, and I just never really found another great place. Not that that's exactly the kind of work I'm looking to do now, considering everything, but
yeah. And let's go back to the right leg.
Okay. Yeah, I just need to spend more time stretching because I just like finish my workout and I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, my back.
And switch one more time. Yeah, my girlfriend gets mad because I don't warm up or cool down after a workout. And then I'm like, I hurt my back. And she's like, well, that's your fault.
You should know better. You of all people.
I know. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have the time. I always have the time.
No one has the time.
All right. So now this one I call a scoop stretch. I don't know what the exact real term is, but I like calling it a scoop stretch because that's what you're going to do. You're going to drive your right heel into the ground. You're going to have a nice your left leg's going to have a nice little bend in the knee. You're doing is scooping past your toes, and then you're going to switch. So right knee's going to be bent, left leg is nice and straight, heel into the ground, and you're going to switch. And you're going to do this 10 times, 10 per leg.
Woo!
Yeah, so you should feel the stretch in your hamstring. You should feel it in your calf.
I feel it in like the arch of my foot even.
I have 3 more. 2 more. Last one.
I'm getting my like warm up in right now. This is great.
See, I'm helping you out.
You are.
And the last one, I'm going to adjust my camera here, is you're just going to get to the bottom of your squat. You're going to take your knees. You're going to pry your elbows apart. Hopefully try to get as low as you can. Sway side to side so you can open up those ankles, especially if you're going to be doing any sort of squatting today.
Are your feet flat or no?
My feet are flat.
Well, look at you. Okay, there we go. I got flat.
There you go.
Got him down there. Oh!
You can do prayer hands if you'd like.
It helps to like push them out a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And I like to, like I said, I take my elbows and I pry my knees apart.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right. And then the last thing, if you're game, I've never done this before, but matzo ball standing right in front of me. I don't know if you have Blue or Benny, but we could do 10 or 5 dog squats just for fun.
Okay, I'm going to try to grab Blue, but I'm making no promises.
Let's see if we can get at least 2.
Come here. Come here. Oh my God, I got him. Holy crap.
Oh, there we go. All right, let's just do 3 just for the dog's sake. Right, ready?
Oh my God.
1, 2, and 3. All right.
Oh my God. I cannot believe I actually got him up.
That was great. And you did it for 3. That's 80 pounds. You moved 80 pounds with ease, Renee. You're ready to go to your trainer and kick butt on your workout today.
Absolutely.
Well, Renee.
Thanks for having me on. That was fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. We learned a lot today. We learned you love horror and in all of its form, whether it be novels or movies. We know that you have a cookbook, hopefully coming out very, very soon, where people can pick up and make some delicious recipes.
I'll keep everybody posted on that.
Yeah, please do. And we also know that you can squat your bulldog times.
I'm out of breath from it, but I can do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Renee.
Thanks,
Again,
guys.
Please follow Renee on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys very soon. make sure that you please stay in Sideshow. But most importantly, don't forget to let your geek side show.
Yeah, thank you, Joshy.
Hey, did you like that video? Be sure to subscribe by clicking the S icon on your screen and click that bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.